Hey guys, the HBAR ETF. If you didn't know, it's been doing pretty fucking well. And that's what I'm going to talk about in this video and expand upon that a little bit more. The reality around HBAR ETFs in general right now in 2026, it's had a pretty good and interesting middle ground, right? It hasn't had this explosive mania in terms of media hype, at least not that I have seen, but it's been, for it being a little quiet, there's been some very measurable institutional progress that I'm not sure a lot of retail investors have really noticed. And I think that they're greatly underestimating how well this thing is already done. We're in a very bearish sentiment. We have been for a while since the HBAR ETF got released last year in quarter 4, but it was the third crypto that got an ETF in the US. The third one. There was Bitcoin, there was Ethereum, then there was HBAR. Solana got released the exact same day as HBAR. So if you want to say it was tied for third, sure. No one or their mother thought that HBAR was going to be the third crypto to get an ETF. But guess what it did? And it's been bringing in money. I want to get in a little bit about how well the ETF's been doing, what the future of HBAR ETFs look like, and break down kind of what the demand is going to be moving forward. So if any of that interests you or you're big into HBAR, this video is for you. And if you've been here a couple of times, you get anything useful from this video, please do press the like and subscribe button. Do you realize nothing here is ever financial advice? Investing in crypto is risky. You could literally lose all of your money. So do your own research. And if you have any questions, comments, or thoughts, put them down below. Let's talk about this HBAR ETF and beyond. So as of right now, there's only one HBAR ETF trading in the US, and it's Canary Capitals. All right, it was launched October 28th back in 2025, all that long time ago. It's listed on the NASDAQ. It holds actual HBAR, not derivatives or synthetic exposure, no wrapped HBAR or anything like that. And this is really important. Again, for the first time now, institutions, they can buy HBAR and it gets direct HBAR exposure. And HBAR has been mentioned by a lot of large institutions and companies. BlackRock has announced them several times. Yes, they're much more deep into Ondo, but listen to what they're saying. Elon Musk has used HBAR or HBAR technology for satellites with SpaceX. Right? And now with this ETF, not only is there more institutional exposure, but now it's regulated in this little ETF wrapper, so to speak. And we can now buy without touching exchanges, wallets, or custody infrastructure. This is I feel like I'm getting a little old to say this, but this is the boomer people that is getting into. Is people who didn't understand crypto, but if they understand the money that's coming into it, they don't have to jump on Coinbase or make these wallets or any of that. They can buy it directly on the NASDAQ. It makes it a lot easier for them. So it brings in a whole new population of people that wouldn't have gotten into crypto otherwise. And the Bitcoin ETF and the Ethereum ETF was a little slower to get going, but it did the same thing. So now these same groups of people are going to looking, oh, there's another one. And the way just the mentality and the psychology of people work is that Bitcoin was the first one. Everyone knew that was the big and most important one. Ethereum was the second one. Crypto silver, right? Second most important one. Now, people who don't know anything about crypto, as great as I really think HBAR is, because I've been into it for several years, now other people can think, oh, this is the bronze crypto. It's the third one. Okay, it's right there with Solana. Where everyone is be with, if people who are looking for crypto exposure without getting into crypto, great news, they've now heard of HBAR when before October 28th, none of them had before. And then if you're sitting there like, well, people aren't buying it, so that's not true. People haven't heard about. Bullshit. We've got stats. It hasn't been explosive, but it's also not nothing. I mean, there's over 1% of the circulating HBAR supply has been bought in ETFs. Right? That's not nothing. To give a little bit of a dollar comparison, HBAR ETF of quarter 4 2025, so the time it's been out minus anything that's been bought in the last week, all right, it was roughly 1.5 to 1.7% of HBAR's total market cap was bought by the HBAR ETF. To give an idea of what that means is that 1.5 to 1.7% of, if it was Bitcoin at their market cap, that would be the equivalent of $30 billion going into Bitcoin ETFs. And that's a shit ton, right? Now, of course, we're talking now the millions, but in terms of the size of how large HBAR is, being roughly that $5 to $6 billion market cap, 1.5 to 1.7%, that's a large chunk. And it's continuously going up, right? Not at all saying that HBAR is the next Bitcoin or anything in terms of ETFs, but for the size, HBAR has already seen meaningful institutional engagement and it hasn't even been heavily advertised yet. Wait until some of the larger ETFs start to come out, which of course we'll get to that one shortly. Now, as of right now, from what I could find in January 2026, there's roughly 15 Hedera related ETF filings under the SEC review. No, I don't think all of them are going to get released. Some of them are standalone spot HBAR ETFs. Some are multi-asset crypto indexes, which HBAR has already been some of those, like the Coinbase 50 index, for example. And there's trust to ETF conversions. And not all these will launch, and not all of them will matter equally, but it lets us know that there's a lot coming in the pipeline. And we're not necessarily going to get a heads up about when they're coming out. It's just they're going to be fast tracked, thankfully, due to the new regulation that you can fast track a lot of crypto as long as they're on a derivatives exchange and or if there's already an ETF out. So people can put in or announce an HBAR ETF in approximately 20-ish days, it gets released. So realistically, the market could expect another 2 to 5 meaningful HBAR related ETF launches this year. And the most important one, Grayscale. Grayscale is the most significant potential catalyst for ETF and price action for HBAR in terms of ETFs and similar. Grayscale already filed a Hedera trust structure in 2025. All right, it's seen regulatory extensions rather than outright rejections. Meaning, as it's been going through the process, there's just things they have to work on to get it institutionalized and brought it out. And since Grayscale already manages tens of billions in crypto assets, it already has existing relationships with RIAs, pensions, and family offices. Grayscale knows exactly how to distribute crypto ETFs at scale. It's the big one. It's the one I'm most excited for. If Grayscale Hedera ETF launches in Q1 or early Q2 2026, I think it would immediately become the largest HBAR ETF by the AUM, the assets under management, the amount of TVL, so to speak. It's going to attract more capital from institutions that won't touch the smaller issuers, and it's going to legitimize HBAR exposure in traditional portfolios. Because when we talk about Wall Street guys, they've heard of Bitcoin before Bitcoin ETF came out. They heard of Ethereum before the Ethereum ETF came out. XRP, Solana, Cardano, HBAR, not nearly as likely. But they see Grayscale put a stamp on it, people pay attention to that. The other one that is very likely to be just a price mover and a large credibility source for HBAR ETF is Bitwise. And Bitwise already includes HBAR in diversified altcoin products. But a standalone HBAR ETF filing is reportedly under review right now. And again, Bitwise matters because they focus heavily on enterprise-grade crypto narratives. Institutions will look at it because they'll know that HBAR is much more enterprise-grade because Bitwise is supporting it. Right? Their investor base overlaps with advisors looking beyond just Bitcoin and Ethereum, and they tend to attract steady and not speculative capital. And for long-term holders, that's what we want to see, nice, steady pace. If you're short-term in HBAR, waiting for an alt season or a major pump, any of these ETF announcements, probably Grayscale more, is going to be something you're looking for. But if you're looking for long-term holders, the more that comes out, the better. But Grayscale and Bitwise, those are the two that we really want. So again, HBAR ETFs are not a guarantee of price appreciation or a price to go up, but I think it's incredibly likely. Granted, it's going to do better for the investors, our side, if ETFs are announced at a time when the sentiment of the crypto market is up. Right? Good news is always taken better when people are susceptible to good news. If everyone thinks it's a bear market, people will care less about stuff like this. There are exceptions. But I do think, not going to promise anything, but I do think that we're going to have at least one ETF announced this quarter. And as long as it is Grayscale, Bitwise, or Fidelity, something up there on that capacity, we're going to see a price move to get HBAR back out of this low 11 to low teens category, jump it back up to the high teens to 20 cents, and let's see if we can float there for a little while. At the very least, it's going to give us a good relief rally and then higher lows. So those are my thoughts. What are your guys'? Do you think the HBAR ETFs is going to be a big deal? Do you think it's going to be a short-term catalyst or a buy the rumor, sell the news? Do you think it's going to be a long-term catalyst? Do you think it's going to start the next RWA narrative? Because if it gets announced, let's say an HBAR ETF at the same time or similar time as an XRP ETF, we're kind of golden in that case, at least in terms of the RWA narrative. I'm very confident that would cause a pump for several crypto. That would just kind of come in the tailwinds with it. But let me know what you guys think. If you have any questions, comments, anything else to add, please do down below. I read all of them. I respond to most. And regardless, thank you guys for being here. I'll talk to you guys again soon. Peace.